Namaskar. Welcome to this session. So proceeding to Aparigraha, which we have been discussing over last couple of times, the last sessions, 2 sessions. Now, what we need to understand is we must be trying to identify whether parigraha is taking place or not. Like in case of ahimsa, we saw that we have to critically watch whether himsa is committed, or in case of satya, asatya is committed, or in case of asteya, whether steya is committed, in case of brahmacharya, whether abrahmacharya is committed, because we have to refrain, retrace, absolve ourselves from the opposites of yamas. So also is the case of aparigraha. We must see that whether parigraha is taking place or not. We cannot just examine ourselves whether we are in aparigraha or not. So this is the trick of Patanjali, that he says we must critically look, objectively look at the fact whether we are committing any opposites of yamas. So the parigraha takes place not only by way of grabbing somebody's possession, stealing somebody's possession, grabbing somebody's possession, or depriving someone of possession. So that is a very obvious and overt kind of parigraha that we might be what is called as paradhana graha, apaharanam, paravastu apaharanam. So that is one extent and rather the extremity of it. We may realize that we are not engaging ourselves, indulging in ourselves in such things. So we obviously have a very rational view here, saying that when I have means, when I have a lot of money, why is it that I should not be doing vastu sangraha? Why is it that I should not be collecting things which are my necessaries, my needs, my essentials, my wants? What is wrong there? Why I am not given the right? What is wrong in stacking up these things? We don't see any immorality, unethicality. We don't see any defect. We don't see any aparadha. But actually, little insight, microscopic view will tell us that when we think that there is no such thing and we perfectly justify in parigraha that we are indulging with. So microscopic view will tell us that there is definitely apahara. There is definitely quite a stark kind of sinning, offense, deceit, not only that, there is also steyatvam. You should recall while we were dealing with asteya, we considered the steyatva, the stealing. Apparently we are not stealing, but in collecting the things out of proportions, because we have money, because we have means to procure those things, if we do that, it amounts to stealing. We deprive someone, we deprive many others. So little microscopic view will tell us that there is definitely not a merit. As a matter of fact, there is a vice. But in common man's level of conscience, there is nothing wrong in what we are doing. We don't commit a sin according to penal code of the country, of the region. But there is definitely sinning. And therefore, the parigraha, when we objectively look at it, unbiased way of looking at parigraha will tell us that we indulge a lot in parigraha, and therefore we are not in aparigraha. The thing is that there are many sins not according to penal code, but yet they are sins. So our consciousness tells us that there is a sin, although it is not a cognizable offense or cognizable crime, yet there is a crime. So little conscience, evolved conscience will tell us. If you are conscientious, then of course our idea of sinning and not sinning is totally different. So it depends upon one's conscience, level of conscience. So this is what is very important to consider here. The point is, we saw during the last session that in parigraha, in violation of aparigraha, there is violation of ahimsa, there is violation of satya, there is violation of steya, there is violation of brahmacharya as well. That means there is himsa, there is asatya, there is steya, there is abrahmacharya in parigraha vritti. So that is what Patanjali is telling us, to be more objective, more unbiased in our self-assessment. Then we will realize that we do certainly indulge with not only violation of aparigraha, but every yama that we have considered so far. So as I said during the last session, it is not just something in behavior, conduct, and it is not something that is being civilized to be in aparigraha, but this is ethico-religious principle and not moral ethical principle. So basically we need to be free from Vishaya Spruha, Vishaya Lobha. We must be free from Bhoga Abhimukhata, Bhoga Parayanata. Unless we are free from consumerism within us, there is no way that one can be in aparigraha as Patanjali describes it. So what has to be done for this aparigraha? Again, as I have been repeatedly telling you that, like the other yamas, there is the same practice, that there must be inculcating values given by yajna, dana, tapas. That will improve our fabric of consciousness, refine our fabric of consciousness. And the Satsanga, Sadhana Sanga, Shastra Sanga, which again I don't have to go into. And similarly, Satvik, Ahar, Vihar, Achar, Vichar. So these are the same practices. Whatever were for Ahimsa, the same were for Satya, the same was for Asteya, same was for Brahmacharya, and then same is for Aparigraha as well. Basically, we must get rid of Parigraha vritti. That is having lust or thirst or hankering for the things. So it is called Vastu Vishaya Spruha lalasa, lobha, moha. This must be depreciating. We must have such a kind of principled life that these are having depreciation. The Rajatama Guna should not exercise influence on our consciousness. As long as they are influencing our consciousness, we will not be able to take up Aparigraha even as Anuvrata, as an atomic vow. Now, since we were told that Vairagya is means of yoga, Abhyasa Vairagya together are means of yoga, that Vairagya aspect must be again brought in front of vision to understand what is Aparigraha Vritti. Unless that is there, Aparigraha Vritti will not be there, and therefore Aparigraha cannot be practiced. Our Bhoga Trishna must be on wane. Our Bhoga Lalasa must be on wane. Our Bhoga Sadhanas must be on wane. So, then only Bhoga Vastu Sangraha will get discouraged. And there is no other means for this as strong as Satsanga. So I want you to again understand Satsanga in this perspective. From the perspective as to what kind of conscience one requires, what kind of consciousness fabric one must have to be practicing Aparigraha. So Satsanga, Sattvasanga, Sadhu Sanga, Santa Sanga, Daivi Sanga. So these associations will help us overcome the lust in the mind, the thirst in the mind, the craving in the mind. And that also would give rise to vivekam. So is the case of Sadhana Sanga. So the Sadhana Sanga, including sadhana for Sthula Shariram, Sukshma Shariram, Karana Shariram, or in other words, the sadhana mentioned by yoga is a complete and perfect sadhana for Aparigraha Vritti. So whichever sadhana can be adopted must be adopted, such as asana sadhana, pranayam sadhana, japa sadhana, dhyana sadhana, pratyahar sadhana, various practices which Ashtanga Yoga is going to mention. We must try to adhere to that. All those means, whichever come handy, wherever we can make attempts, we must make attempts. Like, see, if you are carrying some money in your hip pocket of your trousers, and then you are trying to take a journey in suburban services of Mumbai, then you pretty well know that, as you have experienced, that you are going to be pickpocketed. Without knowing, it will happen. You have no kind of idea that it will happen, but it does happen. So we need advertence, we need to take precaution with whatever money we have with us in our wallet, to see that we are not pickpocketed. So those who travel by Bombay suburban train, they have this almost a reflex action. They become very attentive about their possessions. Otherwise, unknowingly, unaware, they are robbed, very easily robbed. Similarly, in Satsanga, all our tendencies are robbed vasana, vikara, these are all robbed in Satsanga. And therefore, one of the mystic saints has said that if you want to be, it is very difficult to get rid of ill tendencies, bad tendencies from one's own mind. It is very difficult to get rid of those, and this doesn't need any explanation or doesn't need any proof. So, one of the modern time saints, mystic saint, he similarly explained. He said, if you are in Satsanga, Sadhu Sanga, Santa Sanga, all these tendencies are robbed of your mind. And I recall here one of the devotees of Bhagwan Shri Krishna called him Chit Chor. And no robber is as well versed as Bhagavan. He can be robbing you of those things which are not possibly robbed at all. People can rob you of your money. People can rob you of your wealthy possessions. They can't rob you of the ill tendencies, bad tendencies, the vasanas, etc. But then, divinity is the one who can really rob you of that unaware. So there is no effort. Otherwise we think it's all very disciplined life, practicing ahimsa, satya, asteya, brahmacharya, aparigraha. We think it is discipline and discipline and discipline. Yes, in one channel it is discipline. One must be disciplined. One must be temperate. One must be moderate. One must be restrained. But it is also true that the best way for all these vasanas to be stolen is to fall in love with divinity. That is why the Panduranga, the Vithoba, has been described as Chit Chor. Chit Chor, Chitta in the sense, Chitta means the vicious tendencies. I recall one of the mystic saint poetess who was contemporary of Namadev and was working as a house servant in Namdev's house, Santa Namdev. She has a wonderful composition where she describes the Pandari, the Panduranga, the Vithoba, as a thief. And she says, I have caught you thief. Dharila Pandari Sora Pandari Ja. So I have caught this thief, she says. That is, by her bhakti, she has caught this thief. Even then you come across in the Rudra Prashna, which comes in all Vedas. In the Rudra Prashna, Stenanam Pataye, Stenanam Pati. He is master of all thieves. He is great of thief. No thief is as greater as or as great as the Rudra is in that Rudra Prashna. So he is described as thief, which is worth taking note of. So the Satsanga in Adhyatma describes that Satsanga, Sadhu, Santa, these are the people who rob us of our ill tendencies, bad tendencies, which otherwise we cannot overcome. Like sometimes it is said in case of a very miserly person that the miserly person will not part with his money unless he is robbed. And these are such tendencies of ours, they need to be robbed. Unless they are robbed, we really do not lose them. They do not leave us and we do not lose them. And therefore, the wonderful description of psychodynamics of Satsanga Sadhu Sanga, Santa Sanga describes it in this way. So, that is Satsanga. So, in the light of what we are discussing, one can try to paraphrase as to what is Satsanga, Sattvasanga, Sadhu Sanga, Satyasanga, Santa Sanga, etc. Then the sadhana. Again, about sadhana sanga, one will understand how it is efficacious for aparigraha vritti as much as it is good for ahimsa vritti, ahimsa dharma, satya vritti, satya dharma, asteya vritti, asteya dharma, brahmacharya vritti and brahmacharya dharma. Similarly for aparigraha vritti and aparigraha dharma. So sadhana, adhyatma sadhana, yoga sadhana, jnana sadhana, karma sadhana, bhakti sadhana. So these are all the sadhanas. In the light of this, one must try to understand what are these sadhanas and how are these sadhanas. So important perspective will be understood and dimension will be understood. Then comes the Shastra Sanga. So Shastra Sanga means the Shastras, Adhyatma Shastra Sanga, Yoga Shastra, Dharma Shastra, Karma Shastra, Moksha Shastra, Adhyatma Shastra, Gita Shastra, Sankhya Shastra, Bhakti Shastra. So these are all the Shastras which are available in Adhyatmic tradition. So one must be well versed or should be at least in pursuit of these Shastras, that is called Shastra Sanga. So Dharma Shastra, Karma Shastra, Moksha Shastra, Vedanta Shastra, Adhyatma Shastra, Sankhya Shastra, Gita Shastra, Jnana Yoga Shastra, Karma Yoga Shastra, Dhyana Yoga Shastra, Bhakti Yoga Shastra. So these are enormous literature available to us, and that certainly would transfigure our consciousness. And of course the combination, the compound of Satsanga, Shastra Sanga, Sadhana Sanga would work a marvel. So I'm trying to omit the repetition because we have been talking about this during all the earlier 4 yamas. And of course finally, Ahara Viharadi Chatushyam, the coordinate of Ahara, Vihara, Achara, Vichara. All those should be sattvic and prevented from being rajasic or tamasic. So this will change our biochemistry, and then once the biochemistry is changed, the things are not that difficult. And of course, as students of yoga, I need to reiterate the importance of the biochemical changes induced by yogic practices, and that is of great bounty. And for that purpose, we have the Panchavayu Kriya, Panchaprana Kriya, Shatchakra Kriya, Panchatattva Kriya. So all these various Kriyas, and of course Kriyas of the esoteric anatomy, esoteric physiology, they all work wonders. The Kriya, Mudra, Bandha, all these greatly come in Asana Sadhana and Pranayam Sadhana. So, Japa, Dhyana, all these practices of yoga will certainly work to evolve the infrastructure needed for all the yamas in general and aparigraha in particular. So this is called Adhyatma Sadhana, and therefore Adhyatma Sadhana have unique importance in the framework of yoga. The pranava sadhana, nama sadhana, japa sadhana, etc. It's an enormous scheme that Ashtanga yoga gives, which will definitely create a disease called kshaya, what we call as TB, where the energies are dissipating and person goes on waning and waning and waning in energies, depleted energies, and finally succumbs to it. So there is parigraha kshaya. And of course, we will understand when we are going to the part of fruition of these yamas. We will understand how the aparigraha has a unique perspective here and cannot be imagined in moral ethical aparigraha. Aparigrahasthairyai janma kathanta sambodaha. So it opens out that portal for adhyatma jnanam. Who am I? Whence am I? Why all this around me? Why I am like this? Why all this around me? Where am I going? So from where have I come and where am I now? Where am I heading? So this is what is adhyatma sadhana. And aparigraha does that. And we are going to understand the logic behind it, rationale behind the aparigraha and adhyatma jnanam. So for aparigraha, we need to embrace adhyatma. And by embracing aparigraha, we will be getting exalted adhyatma jnanam, what is called as pratibodha. We will have realizations. Knowing is one thing, but realizations is another thing. So by adhyatma, by knowing adhyatma, we will practice aparigraha. But by inculcating the value of aparigraha, we will be realizing the realities. So the point is, whatever is himsa, nivarana, sadhana, upaya, same is here. Whatever is anruta, nivarana, sadhana, upaya, the same is here. Whatever is the steya, nivarana, sadhana, upaya, the same is here. Whatever is abrahmacharya, nivarana, sadhana and upaya, the same is here. Same is parigraha, nivarana, sadhana, upaya. We don't have to have separate set of practice for aparigraha. So whatever we do to get ourselves or wean ourselves away from himsa, the same are the means and measures. Whatever we do to wean ourselves away from asatya, the same is here. Whatever we try to do to wean away from steya, the same is here. And whatever we try to wean ourselves away from abrahmacharya, the same is here. So, if yoga is a mountain, we must identify the foothills. Come to the foothills. And this is the foothill that has been prescribed by the Adhyatma Parampara, which I have been repeating. Yagna, Dana, Tapas values called Mulya, and then Sangatraya, and then Aharadi Chatushyam. So this will be the means and measures. So whatever is Ahimsa Sadhana Upaya, same is here. Whatever is Satya Sadhana Upaya, the same is here. Whatever is Asteya Sadhana Upaya, the same is here. Whatever is Brahmacharya Upaya Sadhana, the same is here. It is not different. So, at this stage, perhaps to have little more crystallization of the aparigraha, we should try to understand what is the noble principle that we might be practicing of the nature of aparigraha, and what must be that which was practiced by Jnaneshwar, Yajnavalkya, Vyasa, the such rishis and munis and saints. So there is a big difference in as to why we would be practicing and why they were practicing. And from their practices we will be able to conceive as to what is that value. Ahimsadi dharma mulya. We will be able to have some understanding when we understand why Jnaneshwara, why Yajnavalkya, why Vyasa, Vasishtha, why these noble people, why the saints and sages practiced it. So, there is a big difference between Yamaniyamas that we are looking for and Yamaniyamas which these proficient people were naturally in it, soaked in it. So what is important is that we need to evolve our yoga samskaras. Anyway, as we have been dealing so far as to how himsa takes place, how asatya takes place, the steya takes place, abrahmacharya takes place, similarly how parigraha takes place. What is vitarka badha for aparigraha? If you are in aparigraha vrata, wow, you will get infection. What is that kind of infection? Vyasa delineated on detail. Patanjali mentioned it in aphoristic form: kruta, karita, anumodita, lobha mulaka, krodha mulaka, moha mulaka, brudu madhya adimatra. So we will know from where we must refrain, from where we have to retrace, from where we have to depart. So that will give us mathematics of reformation, and mathematics in reformation is very important. If you are unmathematical, it will the tendencies will bounce back. So similarly, the aparigraha is violated by whatever kind of parigraha. So we must identify where is it that we get deluded and then take measures against that delusion that we have. And let me tell you at this point in time something about danda vidhanam, the jurisprudence. See, we have a usually otherwise very gross kind of view in our times jurisprudence. So, suppose a person has stolen 100 rupees. Then there is only one penal code telling us the punishment to that, as to what should be the punishment for particular sin, particular offense. But we do not go into the depth of all sinning tendency that might be there in some person. And therefore, robbing someone of 100 rupees is not the same offense. Although according to penal code, it would be the one offense according to particular penal code. Whether the 100 rupees that someone has robbed, has he robbed a very rich person who doesn't even notice, or has he robbed someone who by chance somewhere got 100 rupees, very poor, a destitute person, and they have robbed? Someone can be in what is called as Ashta Vishwa, 18 universe poverty. Ashtadasha Vishwa. So that is the expression which comes in vernacular literature. Ashtadasha Vishwa Daridryam. The Daridryam, the destitution is so strong. So even if you have robbed that person of his 1 rupee, It might be equal to robbing someone of million rupees or billion rupees even. So who has been robbed is important aspect to be considered to really quantify the sin of a robber. Then in what state the person robbed someone? I am very hungry, dead hungry. I rob you of your tiffin box and I quench my hunger. So it is quite obvious that I am so hungry, dead hungry, and therefore I robbed your tiffin box. So why someone has robbed, when someone has robbed, where someone has robbed, why someone has robbed, these are important aspects in investigation. And how much my robbery has hurt that person. It so happens sometimes that somebody is robbed of 100 rupees and the person really doesn't notice. He doesn't ever notice. He doesn't at all notice any time that he was robbed of 100 rupees. Because he had hundreds of 100 rupees in his pocket and one of those gone. He loses the count how many he had, and if any note of 100 rupees is lost. So there are so many things. One who inflicts such kind of offense, that must be investigated. Why, how, when, where. Then who was robbed? And the person who was robbed, did it really matter or did not at all matter? So all these factors are considered in the jurisprudence of karma siddhanta. It doesn't just say that any offense is equal, irrespective of where it was done, when it was done, why it was done, who did it, etc., etc. So that's the important aspect that we learn from Dharma Shastra, the jurisprudence. And therefore we should be trying to identify the degree of sin or degree of violation that has taken place in what one has done. So this is an important topic, and with the fifth Yama, Aparigraha, now we are going to understand the concept that Patanjali is going to induct us to, Anuvratam and Mahavratam. But that is next session. So enough for the time being. Namaskar all of you.